Welcome to Getaway Day. This is This Week in Baseball for the week of May 2nd, 2024. So, this week, some pretty big news in the baseball media world. Bally Sports has been renegotiating their contracts with a couple of the TV service providers. I believe they just came to a new contract maybe a week ago with DirecTV. This week, they were focused with Comcast and negotiating there. Things did not go particularly well, and Bally Sports channels are no longer aired on Comcast. So a lot of the U.S. now has no access to the Cardinals, Braves, Royals, the
The
Twins,
Twins,
the
the
Rangers,
Brewers.
like, and a couple others. But yeah, so that's a huge deal.
Yeah, so I guess I'll clarify. They don't have access through cable, so they can still get it through direct to consumer options like the apps, I think. And
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
depending on where you're located, like a lot of the people that get that, it's because you're in market. So like having MLB TV isn't going to help you because you're still in the blackout zone.
I'm not talking about MLB TV. I'm talking about like uh, streaming direct to consumer because they have that available for some of the teams.
Gotcha. Yeah, because you're talking on like Bally Sports app and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, but in your cable package that you pay a lot of money for, it's no longer included, which is very much a bummer.
Yeah, I'm just getting bad vibes about this whole situation because I think the league is also very concerned that Diamond Sports Group's plan is not going to work out so well, and it's not going to work out for them, most importantly. And I don't know, man. What are we going to do with this?
And this is all off of the whole Amazon was basically buying out Diamond Sports Group and or buying half of it or whatever and was
Keeping them
supposedly going to
alive.
help, but
Yeah,
yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen with this now.
yeah.
Like, do they
And we
go
saw,
into bankruptcy again?
yeah, and this is going to start wreaking havoc on these teams potentially. We already saw it this past offseason with the Twins, who seem to be really hamstrung financially. Other teams are going to be feeling the pain of this as well, and that's just bad news for the league as a whole. If the competitive gap continues to widen because some teams can't even like spend because they've been told by their ownership like we lost all this TV money. It's terrible.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that here in the coming weeks, months, and years. Um, Anything else on Comcast and Bally and the whole media landscape?
Not really at this time.
Yeah. So next up, we've had a lot of extra inning games this week, and they seem to all involve one team. Is a team that is at the top of the league in the standings so far. They did fall out a little bit this week. They are now 20-10. So I guess they didn't really fall out of it. I thought they did, but maybe not. And that's the Cleveland Guardians. They went to 4 straight extra inning games. That's
Yeah,
nuts.
extra inning games are terrible now. I hate them.
Yeah.
Like I literally get disinterested in the game when it goes to the 10th inning because I'm like I have to watch this slog of a game that's probably gonna go back and forth with runs being scored in more boring ways than typical. I don't know. I'm
3 of
just going
them
to use
ended in
this
the 10th.
platform to complain about the extra innings rules, and it really like screws with stuff because the team that they've been playing this week, the Astros, I believe they won an extra inning game against Cleveland on Monday night, no Tuesday night, 10-9. But before that, I think they had lost 3 or 4 prior extra inning games, and they just feel like a fluke at this point. It feels like they're 50-50 on whether you'll win an extra inning game. It's more like it's just like why not flip a coin rather than play the game?
Well, and it really feels like if you're the home team, you're probably going to win it more often than not.
I don't know if that's true, but that's an interesting question.
We should look into that.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. So, but the fact that they ended up going to four straight is kind of nuts. Like the trying to remember what the scores were because some of them were kind of low scoring, right?
last night Cleveland beat Houston 3-2. The day before, Houston beat Cleveland 10-9. I
Then
don't recall what happened the two games before
on
that.
Sunday, the Braves beat the Guardians 4-3 in the 10th, and then on Saturday was the only game that went longer than 10. It went to 11 innings and was Cleveland winning 4-2 over Atlanta. So, like, pretty low scoring, kind of boring games until it gets to extra innings, and then it's not any better. So, I don't know. Cleveland managed to win 2 out of 4. So, keeps them up at the top of the standings. They're already at 20 wins. Like it's a good team, but it's a weird, frustrating week, I would imagine, if you're watching the games as a Guardians fan, right?
Yeah, and I think the team's probably feeling it right now too. It's a lot of extra innings to cover, and I'm sure they're like hoping their starter goes deep into the game in tonight's game.
Yeah, because you're basically covering an extra half of a game there.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Mike Trout came out this year and was absolutely dominating on the baseball field, and it seemed like everything was finally going right. His back seemed healthy. He was stealing bases. And then we learned that he has a tear in his meniscus and is going to have surgery on his knee. Something that has not bothered him in like 6, 7 years.
Like a decade. I think it was 2012 the last time he had a knee injury.
Yeah. So really, really unfortunate for Mike Trout. Incredibly unfortunate for the Angels, who already kind of suck. So I don't know, man.
Everyone's saying. I just wanted to say that everyone says injury prone, and yeah, that may be true, but this injury doesn't seem like it's
it.
related to any of the other ones. It's
If
just
it were
bad luck.
if it were his back again, I'd be like, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But
If
no,
it's his
this
back, if it's
is
any one of those recurring hamstring or those type injuries, I'd say okay, yeah. But this is something that's not really related to the stuff that he's had recently at all. So it's just like a fluke, and he's had other fluke injuries too. That's why it's unfortunate that this keeps happening because he's had the hamate bone stuff and just weird stuff happens to Mike Trout, and it's too bad.
yeah. But the dude, he's stolen 7 bases. He's got 10 home runs. Like he was just so fun to watch again.
Yeah.
Not that
But
there was a point where he wasn't fun to watch, because I mean, when the dude's on the field, he's fun to watch. But
yeah, and if you're an Angels fan, it's like, what is there even for
yeah,
you to
he's the reason
care
you go to
about?
the games.
Yeah,
Like now, like you're kind of relying on one of Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, Nolan Shanwell, or Reed Detmers to step up and kind of become the guy that people want to watch. And I don't know that any of those guys are gonna be able to live up to that, just from the standpoint of you lost Mike Trout. Like nobody's gonna live up to Mike Trout.
yeah,
So unless all 4 of those guys combined go off and do some crazy stuff and bring this Angels team from 11-20 back into contention, I don't see this going well for attendance for the Angels until Trout is back, which
yeah.
will be
And
this year.
hopefully, yeah. I
Hopefully.
mean, even like even with that, if Mike Trout's the only reason to go to the game, they're still probably not going to do super well. And what do we do with this team? What are we going to do with these guys?
Force them to sell.
They need a reset of some sort.
Yeah. Speaking of a reset, How about that Tampa team? It is not doing what we thought it would. Tampa
Yeah.
is 14-18, and they just came off a weekend sweep at the hands of the Chicago White Sox. Let me reiterate that slowly for those of you in the back. The Chicago White Sox, owners of the league worst record at 6-25. Like, even Miami, who temporarily had a worse record after that sweep, has gone on a 3-game winning streak to put some distance between them, and now Colorado is the next closest. So
Yeah, I got some issues with this team, and some of their key players have not been themselves this year. And the two that I'm thinking of are Randy Arozarena and Yandy Diaz. They just haven't done regular stuff that they do. With Yandy, he's gone back to being a big ground ball guy. I think he's got like a 60% ground ball rate. And then Randy, I'm not really sure what's going on with him, but it hasn't been the electric guy that's kind of become a superstar these last few years. And if you have like two guys that are really underperforming, and then you're missing Josh Lowe, you're missing Brandon Lau due to injuries, and the whole lineup doesn't look scary in the slightest.
yeah, just a little bit of stuff to back that up. So you were saying earlier that the league average in the month of April was 240, right?
Yeah,
So the Rays as a team, 238. So low, not by that much. 26 home runs. That's one of the lowest in the league. I'm not 100% sure where that comes in the rankings, but that's like bottom 5, I believe.
yeah,
Ahead of, barely ahead, I think, of the Cardinals and the White Sox, who are both around 20-ish. So, like
they're 25th in the league in home runs.
Yeah, so like they're not getting power. They're not hitting for average. Their OBP as a team is not great. Like Richie Palacios has done pretty darn well for them. Isaac Paredes has been good. And outside of them, there's not really been anybody step up. Like,
Yeah.
and then you look at the pitching side, and they're not a whole lot better. Team ERA of 4.63, which not too far off their FIP. Like, they're walking 20% of batters that they face. Like, that's not good.
Yeah. Wait, what?
What it says. Pitching stat. Oh, sorry, that's Garrett Clevenger. They're walking 8%. I looked one number up. Maybe. A 1.32 homers per 9. That's not exactly low.
Huh. That's kind of interesting. That's like that's third worst in the league. So maybe some of that will come down. I don't know. I'm not inspired by this bunch in general, though.
I'm not either. Like, whenever you lose Shane McClanahan, that's a pretty big hit right there just on its own. And they've got other guys that are on the IL that are really not helping the situation.
Yeah. So maybe it's just an injury thing. Once they get their guys back, things will get a little better. But I worry in that division that they're just going to start losing ground on teams that are playing better than them right now, like the Yankees and the O's, and even the Red Sox. So if all the teams are playing better than you and you're playing like okay, you're gonna struggle.
But like, I'm a little bit concerned that their pitching staff is just straight up not going to improve except by natural regression to the mean, because you're not getting Shane McClanahan back. You're not getting Drew Rasmussen back. You're not getting Jeffrey Springs back.
Why? Those guys should be Rasmussen and Springs be back this year.
Is he?
I think they should be.
Has it been far enough away from their Tommy John?
Yeah, it was like very early last year.
So Springs was in April, so okay. But Rasmussen was in July.
Yeah, maybe not Rasmussen, but
McClanahan in
Springs
August.
Springs will be back, I'm sure.
Taj Bradley strained pec in March of this year, so he'll be
Yeah,
back. But
he's rehabbing. He's back soon.
and when's Shane Boz coming back?
He unclear. He should be back. His TJ was like over a year ago
Is
now.
in 2022.
Yeah.
So like theoretically he should already be back. But he's
Yeah,
not,
he's
which
been
isn't
slowed.
exactly
Yeah.
inspiring there. Plus, there are three guys that are in the bullpen that are out right now, which I believe
Fairbanks.
all three of those guys will be back pretty soon. And Chris Davinsky, Pete Fairbanks, and Colin Poche.
Poche.
Poche. I don't know. They got an awful lot of guys in the injured list here.
Yep.
So, but yeah, they're already 6.5 back in the division. 4 games below 500. Like, if they're not careful, they're going to put themselves in a hole that's going to be hard to dig out of, pretty similar to what the Houston Astros have done. So, and we talked about that kind of at length last week, I believe, right?
Yeah.
All right. You want to talk a little bit about that Houston Astros situation?
Yeah. So Astros are getting desperate. They need to find some help all around the team, especially on the pitching side. But they made a pretty big move this week by demoting Jose Abreu to the complex league. Veteran major leaguer of like what has he played for like a decade now? Almost a decade.
Yeah, I think it's been about 11 years.
Yeah. And mainstay in White Sox lineup over the years. Last year struggled at the beginning of the year, but eventually got things going like as the season progressed. And then this year he started off just awfully. It's like the guy's lost all his powers and he needs to go back down to the minor leagues and basically relearn everything. Somehow find his confidence, and he's going to do that in a no stress environment, which kind of feels like he needs some of that right now. The guy that's taking his spot on the roster is Joey Loperfido, who has had one of the best starts to a minor league season by hitting like 13 home runs at AAA. And Loperfido is kind of interesting because I tell you he hit 13 home runs, and you might think, oh, he's like a big slugger type first baseman, doesn't really do a whole lot other than hit home runs. But that's not really the player that Loperfido is. He plays all over the field. He can play first, he can play second. So far, the Astros have played him in left field, and he's actually logged a couple of innings in center field as well in his first 2 games with the Astros. So kind of a versatile player, and obviously has power. If he can kind of keep his strikeout rate a little lower and just mash, that's going to be a nice little find by the Astros and boost to the lineup as some other guys struggle. Um,
25 home runs and 27 steals across 3 levels last year,
yeah,
while hitting, his average kind of bounced around. It wasn't really consistent across the levels, but dang, I'm intrigued.
yeah, interesting player for sure. Do you think Jose Abreu is just washed though?
I think he's done.
Yeah, he's
Like,
getting up there in age.
he didn't have a great season last year. Like, let me get his numbers pulled up here from last year, but
They look okay. Like they're not good, but he kind of got hot for a while. Ended up doing a lot better in the second half. But if you remember, it took him like literally months to hit his first home run of the year last year.
yeah, here, let me get his month by month from last year. So his first home run was in May, and then he had 5 in June. But like April in May, he was a combined like 200 average with that one home run in 205 ABs. And then June, he did have a really good month, but kind of cooled back off in late July for the month of August. And then in September, kicked it back on. But it was really inconsistent. There were a lot of stretches that he just looked lost. Like, this is not the Jose Abreu that they thought they were getting. It's not the Jose Abreu that any of us are used to. And so I'm kind of worried that with him being sent down to the complex league to kind of figure it out in a non-competitive environment, I don't know that unless they're just, well, I mean, if they're completely out of it and can't get back in it, I don't see any reason for them to bring him back. And if the guy that replaces him takes off, I don't see a reason for them to bring him back.
Well, the thing
So,
is that's interesting is that he's still under contract for another year, so they're gonna do everything they can to get him back on the roster.
yeah, but it's not really that big of a, well, I guess it kind of is a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's about 39 million for this year and next.
yeah.
Like,
It's
that's a
not
lot
like
of money for almost no production. Like,
yeah.
you're,
It brings up an interesting topic that we can just touch on here about if the Astros continue playing poorly, losing a lot. Jim Crane said that with me as the owner, the window is always open, but does that totally change if they're totally not competitive, not in the race with upcoming free agents like Alex Bregman? In 2 years, they've got Kyle Tucker and Framber Valdez becoming free agents. Like those guys could fetch a king's ransom in the trade market this year.
I do see a world in which they move a couple of guys. I don't think they'll completely sell off. Like, I could see them moving Ryan Presley if he is still pitching well. Or was he one of the guys last week that I said was not pitching well?
He's not pitching well.
Yeah. If he gets back to it though, I could see them maybe trading him. There's a vesting option for 25 that maybe someone would be interested in. But you're not going to be able to move Abreu. Bregman's already going to be a free agent. Like, McCullers is hurt. He doesn't have much value there.
I think it's
Montero.
Valdez and Tucker that would be the most interesting.
Yeah, I feel like you don't move Kyle Tucker, period. Like, if your plan is to be competitive in the future, he is the guy you keep. If you move on from Framber, that's one thing. Like, I think they can figure out the pitching, but Kyle Tucker is an MVP level player.
Yeah, it's so hard to move him, but at the same time, if there's some indications, obviously something we don't really know, that Kyle Tucker's basically said like, "I'm not signing an extension. I'm probably not signing back with you guys," then it might be the time to move him.
Yeah, I could see that. But I kind of doubt that those conversations have necessarily come up, especially with him having another year of arbitration. Like, I'm doubting they've got to that conversation yet. I don't know. This is just this Astros team is just so weird. Like, I enjoy that they're not the top of the division anymore, but also
It's a
I
strange
don't
feeling.
like that they're bad.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I actually feel like they're gonna get back. That they're gonna get back in the race
Well, I
because
think so
no,
too, and I don't think it's completely out of the question in this division in general, but I also think it's going to be really tough. Like, I think they'll end up be vying for a wild card at this point. Granted,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
still really early. They could go on a massive tear and prove me wrong, but 10 games is a lot, even at this point in the season.
true.
So
Hey, John Singleton just hit a two-run bomb, so there you go.
they're back. My bad.
They're back.
I take back everything I've said. Astros World Series champions
Let's
2024.
go.
All right, you got anything else for Twib this week?
I don't think so.
Right. So thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We will see you back here on Monday with a look at some of the best players in different statistical categories. So make sure to come check that out. And then we will be back here recording on Wednesday. We'll see you then.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.